rose to the rank of Major General of the Volunteers, and in 1864, while the war was still going on, was nominated by the Ohio Republican Party to run for the United States House of Representatives. They wanted me to return home and campaign. My reply to them was brief and to the point. An officer fit for duty, who at crisis would abandon his post to electioneer for a seat in Congress, ought to be scalped. Well, I won the election, and when the war ended, took my seat in Washington, and was reelected in 1866. 2 years after that, I became the governor of Ohio, and was reelected to that position in 1870. Now, I thought 2 consecutive terms was enough for any man. However, 6 years later, I did return to the governor's seat. While governor, I became well known as a sound money man who believed in hard currency. I campaigned for the passage of the 15th Amendment for equal rights for the Negroes. I backed civil service reform, trimmed the state debt, and was for the continued separation of church and state. Well, there was a movement nationwide then to provide federal aid to Catholic and other sectarian schools. The glory of the American system of education has been that it is so cheap that the humblest of citizens could afford to give his children its advantages, and so good that the man of wealth could nowhere provide for his children anything better. This all led up to the Republican National Convention in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the summer of '76, and the most unusual election in American history. After 7 ballots, I edged out James Blaine of Maine for the Republican nomination. After the scandals of the Grant administration, the party wanted a man of high moral character who had no skeletons in the closet, and Blaine had some skeletons. The Democrats also nominated a man known for reform, Samuel Tilden of New York, who had been responsible for the breakup of the infamous Boss Tweed ring. It was going to be an uphill battle, as the people blamed the Republican Party for the aforementioned scandals during the Grant administration, the recession following the Wall Street panic of 1873, and the continued occupation of several southern states by U.S. troops. But the Republicans rallied voters by reminding them of the Civil War. They said, "Not every Democrat is a rebel, but every rebel was a Democrat. The man who assassinated Abraham Lincoln was a Democrat. Soldiers, every scar you have on your heroic bodies was given you by a Democrat."
But the plan did not seem to work. When we went to sleep on the night of the election, it seemed as if Tilden had won. Tilden had received 250,000 more votes than Rutherford, and he had 184 solid votes to Rutherford's 165. Tilden was only 1 electoral vote short of victory. There were still 20 electoral votes yet to be counted. Because of voting disputes, Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana had sent 2 sets of electoral certificates to Washington, one electing Tilden, the other Hayes. Well, the Republicans also challenged an elector in Oregon who was in violation of the law because he held a federal job. Now, while the Constitution details how to decide an election when no one has the majority of electoral votes, it does not cover several sets of votes being delivered to Congress. An electoral commission was established of 5 senators, 5 House of Representative members, and 5 Supreme Court justices. For months, these men tackled the problem. It would just take too long to go into all the intrigue involved. But suffice it to say that at the end of February, after securing Rutherford's promise to end Reconstruction in the final 2 states in the South, the commission voted 8-7 to give all the disputed votes to Rutherford. Thus, he won the election, 185 votes to 184.
Many Democrats were incensed, and if Tilden had pressed the issue with inflammatory remarks, a new civil war might have broken out. Southern Democrats were arming themselves, and cries of "Tilden or blood" resounded across the South. An attempt was even made on my life while my family and I were eating dinner at home. On March 1st, I left Ohio, headed for Washington, not knowing if I would be sworn in as president or not. If Mrs. Grant had her way, I wouldn't be. She was championing that her husband remain president until another election could take place. But her husband wanted to do nothing better than to leave that place. Actually, I was sworn in twice. Once secretly after dinner with President Grant on Saturday evening, just in case the Tilden forces attempted to storm the public ceremony. Well, they didn't.